Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday morning to you. Welcome back to Morning Musings. I hope you are well. I hope you are maintaining calm. I hope you're staying strong in prayer. I hope you're trusting in the Lord. I just really hope and pray that you and all of yours are safe. I heard from a really good friend of mine just the other day that his daughter, who works in the ER, and has already treated several COVID patients, has herself now started showing flu symptoms. We have to keep that in our prayers. You know, the pandemic is everywhere. And as I have said before, when we look at this comparatively speaking with events in history, it doesn't compare. That doesn't mean it's not bad. Doesn't mean it's not horrific. Doesn't mean that we should not be cautious and careful. No, this is a crisis in America, one that you and I have to face together. So, once again, please do not depreciate the significance and the severity of this problem. Don't take chances, especially if you're like me, you're a little bit older in age, and you have some health issues. Please take precautions, okay? And God bless you in that. Well, we're looking at Matthew chapter 24, verse 32, where Jesus, after giving the apostles the signs of his coming and of the end of the age, he said, now learn a parable of the fig tree. When its branches have put forth and become tender, you know that summer is nigh. Even so likewise, when you see all of these things, all of what things? The signs that they had asked for. That's what they asked about, folks. And once again, let me reiterate, because this is so critical. Matthew, good, faithful Jew, writing to a Jewish audience, uses typical Hebraic apocalyptic language. End of the age, parousia. I've shared that language and its significance, meaning, and application with you in prior videos. But you see, Mark, writing to basically a Roman audience, not trained in apocalyptic language quite so much, even though he will go ahead and use some, doesn't have the apostles asking about the coming of the Lord and the end of the age. When Jesus predicts the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, they simply ask, tell us, when shall these things be? What are these things? The destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. Tell us, when shall these things be? What shall be the sign when all of these things are fulfilled or come to pass? You see, when and signs in Mark and Luke refer to one event only, the fall of Jerusalem. Now, since Mark and Luke have the when and the signs to refer to the fall of Jerusalem, then when we come to Matthew and we have the exact same form of question, when and signs, that should tell us that the signs of the coming of the Lord and the end of the age are related to the fall of Jerusalem and the temple. But again, Jesus gave signs in answering the apostles' questions. He gave signs of the end. Now look, folks, they didn't ask about two different ends of two different ages. They asked about the end of the age and of Christ's coming. Not comings, plural. Did you know that the Greek plural form of parasiai, does not appear until the middle of the 2nd century? There's only one parousia of the Lord in the New Testament. Anyway, Jesus said, Matthew chapter 24 and verse 14, this gospel of the kingdom would be preached into all of the world as a witness to the nations. Then comes the end. Greek word telos. What telos? What end? Well, they just ask about it. The suntelia tone aeonion. The suntelia is the consummation of the age, it is the end. I'm staggered at the incredibly desperate attempts by some former preterists to destroy that indisputable fact. But I won't go into that. Anyway, so the question is, when Jesus said this gospel of the kingdom will be preached into all of the world as a witness to the nations, then comes the end, then we have a signpost. We have a nail on the wall, as it were, that we can hang our hat on if it's true that the gospel was preached into all of the world in that generation. Well, once again, we have to be kind of staggered, really, at the desperate attempts of former preterists to escape the biblical fact. The fact is this: Jesus used several different words to speak of the world, to speak of the earth, to speak of the gospel being preached to every creature. He used several different Greek words. Every creature, Mark 16, 15 and 16, the gospel shall be preached to every creature. He used the Greek word cosmos, that the gospel is to be preached into all of the world. He used the Greek word ge, translated as earth or land. And he used the word world, translated from the Greek word oikumene, which is inhabited world. So here we have Jesus using an array of Greek words for world, earth, creation, etc. The absolutely amazing thing is, and by the way, in my book, Into All of the World, Then Comes the End, on page 4, I have a chart. And on the one side, I list every single Greek word that Jesus used to describe the preaching of the gospel to every creature, the preaching of the gospel into all of the world, the preaching of the gospel to the ends of the earth. Every single Greek word that Jesus used to command or to predict the preaching of the gospel into the oikumene, Paul, in the other column here, Paul used that identical Greek word and words to say the preaching of the gospel had been done. It had been preached into all of the world, cosmos, Colossians 1, 5 to 7. It had been preached to every creature under heaven, Colossians 1, 23. It had been preached into all of the earth, Greek word ge. Acts chapter 1, Romans chapter 10. Every single word that Jesus used to predict and to command the preaching of the gospel into all of the world, Paul used to say it had been done. And then, remember, Jesus said, the gospel shall be preached in all of the world, oikumene, as a witness to the nations, ethnoi. Oh, and by the way, Paul said in Romans chapter 1, 8 and following, that the gospel had been preached to all of the nations. And in Romans 16, 25 and 26, he said the gospel had been preached into all of the nations. So once again, to reiterate and to reemphasize every single word that Jesus used to preach, to command and to predict the preaching of the gospel into all the world, Paul used those identical Greek words to say it had been done. And as we will see tomorrow, not only did he say it had been done, not only did he say the gospel had been preached into the cosmos, into the oikumene, to every creature, into all of the earth, to all of the nations, but he also said the end had drawn near. Just like Jesus said, the gospel shall be preached in all the world as a witness to the nations, then comes the end. Now, I told you yesterday about the April Boy, you talk about a special. I got to be honest. I didn't count. I didn't count very well when I put this together initially, but I'm going to do it. All right. This is actually a 3/4 product special. Matthew chapter 24 in the Olivet Discourse is obviously based upon Daniel's 70-week prophecy. This book normally costs $17.95 plus $4.95 shipping. This book, Into All the World, then comes the end, which has that chart that I just showed you. This book is normally $11.95 plus $4.95 shipping. Some years ago, I produced a 6 DVD set on Israel and the land promises. Why do I do that? Because we're told that 1948 was the restoration of Israel to the land, that the land belongs to Israel by divine right. It's always hers. Well, that's just simply false. This is normally $39.95 for this DVD set. Now, you can get this at a greatly reduced price as a download on my websites, but for the actual DVD set, it's normally $39.95 plus $4.95 shipping. Well, if you purchased all 3 of these items, they would cost you $70 plus $14.85 shipping. So that would cost you $85 if you purchased these 3 items separately and paid shipping. But then my book, and by the way, folks, this is one of my continual bestsellers, Israel 1948, Countdown to Nowhere. We're told that the restoration of Israel in 1948 was the super sign of the end of the age. Well, guess what? Thomas Ice and Tim LaHaye recognize, Arnold Fruchtenbaum recognizes that Israel in 1948 was comprised primarily of the majority of atheists, agnostics, and unbelievers. Are we supposed to believe that God restored Israel in that state of rebellion and unbelief and sin? Yet that's what they claim. This book is an utter repudiation and falsification of that claim. Now, this book is normally $6.95 plus shipping. Here's what I'm going to do. This is a COVID-19 Ultra Super Duty special. Remember, these 3 items alone would normally cost you $85. But you add this to it, and that would be another $11. Yeah. For the month of April, I am offering 70 weeks are determined for the resurrection. Into all the world, then comes the end. Israel Israel and the land promises for a grand total of $55 delivered to your door. But wait, as they always do on those commercials on TV, there's more. I'm going to include, free of charge, the book Israel 1948, saving you an additional $11. You know, according to my calculations, that's going to save you almost $30. Almost $30. So, go to my website. There'll be a tab up at the top. Order 70 weeks are determined. Into all the world, the land promises. Total delivered price, $55, and you will get free of charge Israel 1948, Countdown to Nowhere. Okay? Thank you so much for joining me for this morning's morning musings. And yes, we've got more on Matthew 24:32 on the flip side. I'll see you there.